Meeting to order. Appreciate you all being here, and our meeting is being streamed on YouTube Live on the Sky County Fiscal Court YouTube page. I'd like to ask the court and anyone in the courtroom to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. At this time, I'd like to ask Stacy Hamilton to call the roll.
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Here.
Mr. Ellison?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Livingston? Mr. Mark K.M. Culbertson?
Here.
Judge Covington?
Present. Thank you. With that said, first agenda item that we need to turn our attention to is the minutes from the May 26th meeting. Are there any questions or comments in regards to those minutes as presented? Motion from Mr. Hostetler to approve. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Lyons. Any other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the June 3rd meeting and the minutes as presented. Are there any questions or comments related to that?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Corman to accept as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second from Mr. Ellison. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That said, we'll go to number 5, transfers as presented in your packet. Any questions regarding those documents? And is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Wallace, a second by Mr. Lyons. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 6 on our agenda, bills and hand checks. Draw your attention to the jail general fund there. 125,000, road general 75,000. Any other questions or comments related to the bills and hand checks as presented? Motion from Mr. Lyons. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Burke. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Let the record reflect that the clerk fees were presented in the amount of $147,115.02. Let the record reflect that the sheriff's fees were presented in the amount of $21,770.50. That brings us to number 8 on our agenda. Item that we've been talking about and working on for quite some time. And after the last meeting, the court asked me to reach back out to the Shepherd's house and the Isaiah house and asked if we could get information from them in regards to capping the first year for the operating number of participants, at 25, and then looking at costs. And I presented to you all a spreadsheet comparing or trying to compare the first year expenses and then also sharing estimated second year expenses as well. Looking at the Isaiah house information, first 6 months would be at a monthly reimbursement of $21,340. The second 6 months would be $19,500. That total for a 12-month cost would be $245,040. They also are requesting $12,496.77 for upfront equipment expenses that were outlaid in the proposal from the Isaiah house. Looking at the monthly reimbursement after talking with the well, one thing I need to talk about in regards to the Isaiah House is they will cap the costs at the 19 essentially at the 19.5 cost for regardless of how many clients are referred from the court. So they're sharing that if they went over 25 clients referred from the court for a month, that their cost would still be the same. And that's one thing that the court needs to understand. Secondly, looking at the Shepherd's House, I spoke with the Shepherd's House, and they were willing to change their proposal from, cost for 1 to 25 clients. Their cost would remain, originally it was 1 to 20, and they adjusted it to 1 to 25 clients, and their cost would remain initially for the first year at $11,000, capping out for the first year a total of $132,000. They did not list any upfront costs that they would ask for from the court. Looking at lease potential costs, the Isaiah House has offered, they would prefer the location that is located up in Washington Square. They have offered to pay half that lease. If the court went with that, that would be approximately $2,500. The Shepherd's House, the cost of the lease would be completely on the court. Utilities, one thing we had not spoken about, but the Isaiah House would pay for half. They offered to pay for half of the utilities of water, electricity, garbage, and internet. And the Shepherd's House, their contract, full expense would be on the court. I'm estimating that cost to be, around $500 a month probably. I'm just not sure. Both parties would request a 2-year agreement, and both parties agreed. Shepherd's House already had a 60-day termination clause. The Isaiah House agreed to do the 60-day termination clause as long as it wasn't in the first 6 months. So if you look at those items, and this does not include utilities, but the first year estimated cost for Isaiah House, what I'm estimating it would be approximately $287,536.77, whereas the cost for the court for the Shepherd's House proposal would be $192,000. Looking down the road into the second year of the agreement, what I figured up would be for the Isaiah House would be $19,500 a month, so that would get you at $245,000 again, $245,000. And then looking at the Shepherd's House, they kind of have a tiered second year program there for the numbers, and 1 through 25, if we were still at that level, would be $132,000. If you got up to 25 through 40 clients, it would be $216,000 annually. And then if you went above 40, it would be a yearly cost of about $300,000. So that's just the data that I've put together to share. As I shared last week, I've talked with the judge in Boyle County, Judge Hunt, and a variety of folks, and I've even talked with Judge Dills in Grant County about how their relationship with the Shepherd's House was going, with the Shepherd's House running the state substance abuse program in their jail facility now, and he had nothing but good things to share as well about the Shepherd's House. The same thing goes with the Isaiah House. I've gotten good references. They've been well established and are quality as well. Both programs are going to provide a much needed program and benefit for folks that are struggling with addiction and individuals that have become involved in the court system. And you know, I believe that either way we go, there's gonna be a benefit for our community and for individuals and such, and for the county in general. So I would open it now for any questions. I'll try to answer any questions and try to help get anything answered that you might have.
Judge, I had one question. I assume that in the rental lease, I believe that Scott County is Against Drugs? Neither
and I
one that
didn't-
is reflect. Okay.
So I did not mention, regardless of whoever we go with, that group, ASAP group, has committed and intend to give the county $1,500 a month towards this program, $18,000 a year, to offset costs to offer this program. So you can put that in your head overall.
That's not reflective on the
It's
total
not,
number?
no.
Yeah, okay.
But either program, those funds would offset the cost. Good, thank you, Chad. Kelly, Dwayne, Bill, anyone? Rick?
Couple of comments. Maybe I did the math wrong, probably did, but when I looked at, because, and Bill brought this up at our last meeting, which I agreed with him, it's kind of hard to get an apples to apples here, even still, but it's a little clearer, and I think that maybe that's the best we can get, because because of the kind of animal that we're dealing with as far as what they're trying to bid and give us a price on. But when I did the math and I considered the Isaiah house and the fact that they'll pay half of the rent, basically, or half of either place. But I think when I read the emails, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like both of them were kind of leaning towards the $5,000.
And both of them shared with me that because of the condition of the property,
Of the
one property, which is $5,000 a month. Both groups felt like that would be the better of the two spots because of having to do less remodeling.
Yeah, the existing condition.
Right.
And it's the higher rent. So I used that number and did some deductions and came up with a little different. They're a little closer on number when you, because on the face, there's almost 100,000 difference in that. But I did that first 6 months of the first year at their 21,340 for the Isaiah house, and then I did the second 6 months at 19.5 because they said that's when they thought it would go down to that.
And that comes to 245,040.
Yeah.
And then
Then I added that initial operating expense for the Isaiah house, because
originally that was around 13,000 and some change, and they lowered that because if the court decided to go with
oh, well, then I didn't know about
the higher amount, the property at Washington Square, there were some desks that the owner said that they could use there. And then, go ahead, Rick, I interfered.
No, it's okay. I was just I was doing my best to try to come up with somewhat of an apples to apples. But the big kicker, when I ran it all, it's pretty easy to run those numbers by what you just did and whether mine are right or wrong in comparison to yours. They're close. The big thing that I thought about, I didn't think about this till last night when I was going over it again, is I know we have a goal to help our community, but the first target is reducing folks in our jail if the court system decides to send them this way instead of to jail. And so I have no idea. If we stayed under 25, then there's an obvious cost difference. But I don't know what that'll be. And then in the Isaiah House's proposal, they don't care from the first day if there's 50 in it. It's going to be, once they get to that 6 month deal, it's going to be the same price. So that's the part that I'm having a hard time comparing, because it becomes significantly different if you get to 40 to whatever their categories were for the Shepherd's House. But I don't know. Will we ever get to 40 to 60? Will we get to 25? I feel like we will, Well, I don't know that, it's just that I've talked to the coroner recently, and unfortunately in our community, overdose deaths are significantly up in the last couple, 2, 3, or 4 months, whatever the period is. Probably a lot of things that are impacting that, but nonetheless, you look at the national news, and it's an increase across our nation, overdose deaths during this COVID-19. That seems to have a part to play in it, whatever that is. But that's why it's been a sticking point, because if it stayed below 25 participants, then it's kind of an obvious thing that there's a significant difference in the cost, and it'd be a savings. Because I think both programs.
I'm going to interject. You know, for $95,000, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of Scott County. Right now, our fiscal court is in a pinch. We're in a budget pinch. And I think it's best that we go with a system that provides the biggest bang for the buck and provides us the greatest cost savings while doing it.
Well, that's true. I agree with that, Bill.
Which
except
one are you
for-
leaning towards, Bill, or?
I'm leaning towards Shepherd's House.
Okay.
I would too,
And the
also,
reason I
cost
say-
and the federal program. That's
And the
what,
reason I say that is because they're already a proven entity, they're already working with other county governments, they're working with state governments, they're plugged in, okay? And for $95,000, you know, I'll take it at a bat for $9.50. You know, we're talking $95,000, and we've got wrecked vehicles out there that we need to replace. And where are we gonna spend our money wisely?
Rick, what else would you like to add?
That's it. I get what Bill's saying, but what I'm seeing is if there's an increase over the 25, then those numbers all change. But we won't want to, I wouldn't be in favor of going back and trying to grab the Isaiah house. You know what I'm saying? When we pick one or the other, that's what
Stay
we're
with
going to
it,
be
yeah.
with. And over time, that could change, or over time, it could be that savings right along. I don't know that answer.
And-
That's what-
And this has been very difficult for me because I've gotten to know both groups, and both groups are quality people, but along the lines of just looking at, the first year expense, it's, there's a significant difference in cost. And then you look at the second year, but one of the conversations I had with Chad was, you look at the square footage of the facilities that we're looking at, I would need to know how the logistics are, how we're gonna serve very much more than 40. And, I don't know how that would work, but
I thought about that too.
yeah, just the logistics of the size. So I don't know how much more we could serve in those two,
When I think about it,
I don't want to run this like we're running our jail.
that's a concern. But I do think that either one of these programs would benefit individuals that are struggling, and at the same time, there is no doubt there is a cost savings to the county, and it will relieve some pressure from the Scott County Detention Center. And then the hope is that these individuals do not wind back up in the correctional facility again, because just being on a merry-go-round of recidivism. And hope that they get the help they need, they get some training, and then they get connected with jobs. And that's what both programs are trying to do.
Well, and if you look at their proposals, Isaiah House is actually way along on that track. They're already bringing folks to Scott County companies from their, I think it says from their facility that they have in Lexington.
Mhm.
But they could also, they have that,
Yeah.
they have their big facility in Willisburg.
Yeah.
So.
Chad, you have any comment, or?
I just think that with the relationship that we're going to establish with Grant County and going and seeing them, and unfortunately I didn't get to see the Isaiah house, I felt like that Shepherd's House makes the most sense from a fiduciary standpoint, as well as from the relationship that we'll have with Grant County. And I'll make the motion that we approve the contract with the Shepherd's House.
I'll second.
Or wait a second.
Well, It doesn't matter to me. Bill,
Hand beat me, I think.
All right. Bill Burke is with us second.
God, I'm not.
What,
I'm
what
working on
other
it. I'm
questions or
training.
comments do
one and
we
a half.
have related? Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Do you have any, how many folks does the Shepherd House service in Boyle County? I mean, the big question is, how many people are gonna be going through the program? I mean, that's a huge difference 2 years from now, if you could get up to those higher numbers, that's, I guess we got no way to know.
Well, I think they did put something, let me see.
Well, I mean, we also can keep that as a limit as far as what we want to pay for.
Motion with a cap.
You know, like we talked about, you know.
Yeah, the motion.
We could always limit it each year.
But if this works to do it good, we wanna get as many
Right.
people in as we can.
Right.
You know,
I agree.
I don't have a number.
I thought they said that, Judge. Hang on a second.
Alvin, right now, today, and Darren can correct me if I'm wrong, we're sitting at 70 inmates down here in the county jail, and we've been all the way up to 150 plus. So, you know, it's kind of hard to predict.
But, you know, every day, every week in court, there will be a liaison from the Shepherd's House or the Isaiah House in the courtroom. They'll be working with the public defenders, the defense attorneys, and with the county and Commonwealth attorney. And if it looks like an individual would benefit from this program, they'll do an assessment, and then they'll ask the judge to consider, in lieu of incarceration, assigning the individual to this program. So either way, so I don't have a number to answer your question. I wish I did. I'm sorry. So we've got a motion. We have a second. Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion to accept the proposal from the Shepherd's House, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'm excited.
Judge, yeah, I want to kind
I
of
mean,
clarify, I am too.
yeah.
I would have chosen the Isaiah House, but I'm good with the Shepherd's House as well, because I think they're both doing quality work. And,
No.
I'm just trying to look at that long term, thinking that the number's gonna go up. Maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Yeah, no,
Do they have any
I'm excited too,
timeline?
just, I've been working on
I'll
something
get
like
with
this
them
for a
and-
long
Long
time.
time.
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
I'll get with them, and, you know, one thing is, you know, have to
Lease issues.
do the lease issue, and then go from there.
Is the cap of 25 for period or 1 year?
For 1 year. And in conversation with the owner of the site, you know, he would do 2 years. He would by far prefer 3 years. But he did say do 2, and the Shepherd's House said that they would negotiate the lease and execute the lease, and we would reimburse them for the lease costs. So, and both organizations said that. So if you have any other questions, please get with me. But I want to be excited for our citizens and for our community, because a lot of people that have not had an avenue to get help, the court has navigated an opportunity to help them, and I really appreciate your gesture and your work on this, the time and effort to look into it and consider it. Electrical inspection vehicle purchase. You know, we talked about trying to be consistent and not approving any new vehicle purchases in our new budget. That's what we communicated, but we continue to have issues with electrical inspection vehicle. JR shared with me, I had the request from Don Hawkins, and it's my job to share that request with you all. I then went to JR for an opinion about the status of the vehicle. We've spent about $4,000 on the vehicle, and the vehicle is, it's on its last leg.
With 170,000 miles on it, it's not worth $4,000.
Yeah, and it's two-wheel drive, and they need four-wheel drive. So the request is to purchase a Ford Escape off the state bid list for $26,955. What questions or comments does anybody have about that? My concern is just them being able to complete their job. They can't complete their job without a vehicle, and it's been unreliable and an issue, and I really don't want us to put any more money into the current vehicle.
It's currently broke down now.
It's not broke down. It's JR's got it band-aided together, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And that, Don came back to me that, probably 2 weeks ago about this request, and I said, Don, I'll take it to the court, and the court can consider it.
You just said we could get it in this budget year.
Stacy and Michelle and I, we've looked at all the monies that we have left, and we believe we can take it out of this year's budget reserve. Motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from Mr. Lyons. Any other questions?
I don't guess Tony had any extra Tahoes left over, did he?
I'm here to answer another.
Any other questions or comments?
That'd been a nice
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Who was second? I'm sorry.
The second on the motion was Mr. Lyons. County Attorney new hire, Child Support Office, Jeff Mudrack is going to share that information with the court.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, on behalf of Rand Marshall and Diane Gibson, I'm pleased to recommend the appointment of Caitlin Tucker as a new child support caseworker. Her first day of employment will be June the 15th, and her pay would be $15.93 an hour.
Any questions, comments for Mr. Mudrack?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Mr. Corman. Is that a second for Mr. Lyons?
I will.
He raised that hand. So we have a second for Mr. Lyons. Any other questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Teach you to swap flies.
You gonna buy some cattle? EMS new hires. Mr. Mudrack, could you please share with us that information?
Sure. On behalf of Brandon Remley, there are 3 new EMTs we would like to recommend appointment. Jonathan Hartman, Caitlin Beard, and Edward Yarborough. Jonathan Hartman would come to us as an advanced EMT at $11.75 an hour, and Caitlin Beard and Edward Yarborough would be at $10.50 an hour, and their start dates would be July 6th.
Any questions or comments? Motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from
I'll say.
Mr. Ellison.
Well, one quick question, I'm sure you know what Jeff, where does that leave him on staffing?
Fully staffed, yes.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mudrack. Mr. Mudrack, could you comment real briefly about, Brandon Remley has shared with us, and we've shared with you all, but I'd like to publicly, Brandon Remley's going to retire.
Yes.
Happy for Brandon to be at the point that he can choose, make those type of choices for his life and family. But I'm sad for our county because we've had a great leader in Brandon in the EMS department, and the training that he's oversaw and established is really made our program second to none. And just would like to publicly express my appreciation. And then Mr. Mudrack, could you cover what you've done as far as hosting the position and where you've done it? And
Sure. Yeah, we have created our job announcements on our webpage right now for viewing. We've also, we're basically conducting a national search. We have posted it with EMS World, with the National EMT Organization. So we're conducting a very broad search here, and we've received, at this point, about a dozen applications so far since we posted it last Friday. And we're getting a very wide and varied and strong candidate pool so far. So I'm looking forward to getting much more candidates. And yes, we have some tough shoes to fill. Brandon did a great job as our director of EMS, and he'll be missed.
When's his date?
I give him a lot of credit for holding it together when most other people would have failed. At one time, he had a 49% turnover rate. And that had been going on for 3 or 4 years. And
That's
I
enough.
don't know how you can run a business or a department like that.
enough for your hair to fall out.
Oh. Right. Yes, you don't have to break.
What's his retirement?
July 31st. July 31st. I just wanted to talk about that, and we'll have to do, I'd like to do some type of resolution of appreciation for Brandon. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
clerk bid voting machines on Wednesday at 2:00. We opened the bids, and we've shared what our plan has been. Is we took the bids and advertised the bids, and our plan is to pay for 125,000 of the voting machines out of this year's budget, and then after July 1, we will pay the balance of 100 or whatever it is. But the bid that came in, and we only had one bid, and this is a very Harp Enterprises Election Services, very established company that services a lot of Kentucky counties, and the total amount that they came in after discounts for countywide purchase and trade-in allowance for HVS equipment, the bid came in at $248,026.75, and that's for 27 Verity scan bundle, Verity touch writer bundle 14, tabulation computer, report printer, battery charger 6 bay, Verity drives 175, Verity keys 4, Verity print, ballot on demand 1, and shipping 1 of 3,500. So this, and the way the bid was written, is that we would want, there will still be a need to purchase another $250,000 worth of equipment out of a future budget, and if the court elects to do that, we can use this bid to do that, is what Rand has shared with us as well. So what questions does anyone have? And this moves us along to making sure that our election department, our county clerk's department, has the equipment to provide a safe and secure election. Any questions or comments?
If I remember, did they store it for us as well?
They come and get it, store it. JR, you work a lot with that. Would you comment to that at all? Is that, they take care of that in this bid as well?
It's who we use now.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And Sheriff, absolutely, you're on this election board.
Yeah, I have been for over 9 years now, and they do a fantastic job when it comes time for election, for us to inspect the machines, and they're just really good, top notch.
When Rebecca made her presentation, one of the things that they had talked about was taking the old equipment and using it, and they were going to buy it back. Is that's part of this, the initial part, or is it going to be for the second?
Both.
Okay.
But what
They can't sell any of it or trade any of it until we get everything, so that'll be a while.
we'll have to complete.
They can't
The-
use half and half.
Yeah. But once we do and
Here's the
we didn't
remaining.
want to have to take a $500,000 bite at one time. So we're taking smaller bites and getting done. And then the court can consider in the next budget consideration to go forward with the other part of the purchase.
And then they'll credit us for the old machines at that point.
Yeah. That's my understanding. Is there a motion
I
or
thought that in the breakdown, they were credited.
there was a,
Not for the actual voting machines.
I'm sorry.
okay. Is there a motion to accept this bid or any other questions?
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Mr. Ellison. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Hosteller. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to accept that bid. Now, this is exciting. Number 13, Resolution 20-10, Relief Fund application. I really want to give accolades to Mike and Michelle. Mike's been working with the department heads and constitutional officers to
Hannigan.
Mike Hennigan, yes. Mike's been working to earmark expenses, and Michelle, how many webinars have you listened to? A few.
I have another one here in a few minutes.
Yes, so she's been on the Zooms, and what we have to present to you all is a resolution authorizing us to move forward with this reimbursement application. And I think the total would get us to, on this first application, would be
Around 960.
$970,000. Now, we have been approved through March 1st through December 31st. We can turn in and ask for reimbursements up to $1.9 million. And that's from DLG, and that is based on our population. So what we are turning in is from March 1 till the end of May, and it includes expenses related to COVID-19 directly. Then it also includes salaries and benefits.
Well, mainly salaries right now for public-facing, public safety employees.
So what questions does anyone have related to this reimbursement request? We will go periodically, monthly maybe, or bi-monthly, and move forward requesting reimbursement to try to maximize what we have been authorized of $1.9 million. We don't want to leave anything on the table, and I'm confident with Mike and Michelle, we will not. Michelle, do you want to add anything?
No, there's a lot already from June 1st to June 12th.
Yeah, so,
Are we using it to like get, because you can get cleaning equipment and stuff like that, or are we taking advantage of that?
along those lines, I've asked Mike to look into buying some of those machines, and Mike's looking into that, and we could use that as well.
This relief fund is a reimbursement program.
Right.
So we'll have to wait until the check has cleared the bank to be able to submit that information. So that's why we'll probably do it once every month or
Slowly,
every 2
yeah.
months. Mhm.
So this figure that you just gave us, 970, that's kind of an up-to-date now?
Yes, through May 31st.
It's qualified and you're
Mhm.
applying for it?
That we have all the documentation, all the cleared checks for, yes.
And these monies, once we receive those monies, where will we put those dollars?
They have their own specific revenue fund.
So you created it, and
Yes,
I just
there's a
wanted you to
revenue,
say that.
there's a new revenue line item that DLG has asked that we all implement, that very rarely gets used. I don't believe we've ever used it before, the line item, so it will go into that. But it'll reflect in revenues when it's received.
So, what other questions or comments? I think we're being good stewards of for our community and trying to maximize this.
I mean, this is something, the way I'm taking it is, we'll get this reimbursement as long as, I guess,
We will turn in what we believe to be appropriate reimbursement requests
Yes.
up through, once we max out at 1.9.
and then, but as long as they agree with that, whoever the government.
And Michelle, did you already send in the preliminary, have you sent in any?
Send in all of the supporting documentation. I'm just waiting for it to send the signed resolution.
Yeah.
So as soon as this is over, we'll have that taken care of.
So,
Motion, if you don't have.
yes, sir, Mr. Hostetler. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Ellison. Cam, will you read
Yeah.
the resolution?
Authorizing resolution for coronavirus relief fund, Scott County, Kentucky, Resolution 20-10. Adoption of a resolution of the Scott County Fiscal Court, County, authorizing the filing of a coronavirus relief fund, or CRF, application for reimbursement of incurred expenses in CRF funds with the Department for Local Government, or DLG, authorizing and directing the county judge executive to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by DLG to reimburse county, and authorizing the judge executive to act as the authorized correspondent for reimbursement. Whereas county desires reimbursement for expenses incurred due to the public health emergency with respect to the coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19, on behalf of the residents of the county. And whereas it is recognized that CRF funds are available to the county pursuant to the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act, and impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the county that require, among other things, 1, approval of a satisfactory application by the county transmitted to DLG for approval, and 2, other obligations of the county in connection with receiving the CRF funds for the purposes stated therein. Now therefore be it resolved on this 12th day of June 2020 by Scott County Fiscal Court that a CRF application on behalf of the county for CRF funds for reimbursement of expenses incurred by county due to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19 shall be submitted to DLG. The county judge executive shall provide such additional information and furnish such documentation as may be required and authorize the county judge executive to act as the authorized correspondent for reimbursement on this 12th day of June 2020.
So we had a motion, we have a second, we've read the resolution. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
You want to sign that and Michelle can take it?
I will do it. Moving on, sheriff vehicle total loss replacement. I'd ask our sheriff, Tony Hampton, to share with us the request, and thank you, Michelle.
Good morning. So
Good morning.
We totaled a vehicle. Another one.
A deer, correct?
Yeah, this was a deer. Deer didn't make it. And neither did the vehicle. So the cheapest and the most available vehicle right now would be a 2020 Dodge Ram SSV at a state contract price of $30,807. Last discussion with Stacy and Judge was we were getting about $13,500 in insurance money. And also, we're going to be selling surplus vehicles, 3 Chargers and a Ford Explorer, which, JR, don't you anticipate we'll get probably 10,000, maybe even more out of those?
So along those lines as well, on the amount, you know, Stacy looked at what the value of what the vehicle was that we were paying for insurance on, and I called Joe Greathouse, and Stacy and I got on the phone with Joe Greathouse of CAECO, and we were making a request for a review of that figure and hoping to get more money, because I felt like the number was low for what we were paying on
What vehicle wrecked? What year?
It was a 17 Ford Explorer. Mileage is high on it, about 95,000. So,
If we get more, it won't be much.
Yeah.
But if we get 3,000 or 4,000, we'll take it.
yeah, all the airbags deployed. That's one issue on.
Yeah, that kills you.
Yeah, I mean, it even had the ones in the floor and everything. So,
It's a big deer.
deers do a lot of damage. We put the push bars on all the patrol vehicles, and without that, they could roll up and go through your windshield. So,
What questions or comments does anyone have for Sheriff Hampton? Bill Burke, do you have a motion?
Yeah, that's good.
There's a motion from Mr. Burke to authorize the purchase, a second from
I'll
Mr.
second.
Ellison.
One question, the cost, what you say, 30-something, did that include the upfit?
No, so, Mr. Lyons, my plan was to just do the upfit out of my new budget starting in July. No, it does not include upfit.
And we were able to salvage carefully some of the radios and stuff, which
Yeah, we'll put in a new
Just be
vehicle.
transferred to another vehicle.
Yeah.
All right.
What is it, a Dodge Ram?
Dodge Ram SSV,
How much, Tony?
$30,807. And I'll tell you what, here you go, I'll just give you this.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions, Alan? We've got a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Judge, along those lines, so I know that Tony had 4 cruisers from last year that were going to be surplused, and we now have an electrical inspection vehicle that we'll probably need to surplus. So are we going to be doing that?
JR's doing that. I'm gonna advertise the bids. We'll add the,
I would love to advertise them in the paper and set a minimum
Yeah.
bid on them.
and we'll have to vote to surplus the electrical once it gets in, but we'll do that.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, we might have to pay somebody to take it.
Although, I'm into the auctions.
Yeah.
People buy them.
I know.
That's
I'm
what I like,
being-
but they'll buy them.
I'm being facetious. Next, I'd like to ask Kimberly Rice, our new Parks and Rec Director. Congratulations, by the way.
Great timing.
Might need condolences. But no, we appreciate your willingness to serve and excited to have you in the role that you're in. And here's here's where we're at. Kim submitted a budget to the Budget Committee and myself. Then we had the COVID-19 event start. I went back to Kim, asked Kim to give us another updated, amended budget. And we reviewed that. The court put that in our current budget that we have passed for 21. And that's where we move forward with. But after Kim came on, and Kim was looking closer at figures that was given to her, she had to revise some revenue figures. And essentially, in conversations with the city council and Mayor Prather, after looking at that, to make it correct, to make it right, essentially she needs to request $90,000 from the city council and an additional $90,000 from the fiscal court. And along those lines, she's got 3 or 4 full-time jobs that are not filled. 3 of the 4 she's not going to fill for a while.
Till December.
Till December. Their new budget does not have, any capital in there. Kim, I'll let you talk about that in a second. But
Yes.
But what I have done after she shared with me this request is I've spoken with the mayor, and what I would like to recommend is that we listen to her presentation and we acknowledge that receipt of that information and the need. But what we do is defer the request until December, and we review any changes between now and December in revenue forecasting. And if the need's still there, then the court can consider this in December. If the need's less, then we can consider that. If the revenue bounces up, we can consider that. So that's what I'm going to recommend to the court, but I wanted you to hear firsthand from Kim the request. And the mayor, because we both fund Parks and Rec, and the mayor was good with what I was proposing. And we are going to make a change, and we are going to do quarterly disbursements. So we will do a quarterly disbursement on our current budget allocation, and then we'll come back in early December and look at what's going on. But Kim, you speak to what I've just outlined. Is that pretty much where we're at?
That's pretty much where we're at. Typically, we recover about 40% of our revenue through revenue-generating programs and the pavilion. But as you know, the day I turned in my budget to the judge is the day that we closed our doors. We recently opened on June 1st, and I can tell you that at least $23,000 to $23,000 a month in memberships have been canceled during that time. We rely on those memberships heavily. That's about $270,000, $280,000 of our annual budget. So it's greatly impacted us. And even with us opening the doors on June 1st, we are operating as a fitness-only facility based on the governor's guidelines. We had to limit our class sizes to 9 people, and they are typically around 15 to 20, but that's also a perk of the annual memberships. So they have to come in by reservation. If they can't make a reservation, well, why am I paying for a facility that I can't come in and use? And I understand. I absolutely understand. We chose not to take any membership fees in April, May, and June. So our first membership fee is going to come out on July 15th. And if there are not other amenities that we can add back into the facility and into the program based on the governor's guidelines, we may be looking at even reducing those fees that we take out in July. So the COVID has hit us greatly. Our summer camp programs, we have not been able to do because of the guidelines and restrictions that were put in place. And as you know, Suffaletta is not open. So that was completely taken out of the beginning of the 2021 budget. So you'll see expenditures that are for Suffaletta, but they're for spring. They're not for fall. So it's greatly hurt us in our ability to generate revenue.
Questions for Kim? Any?
Kim, is the pool at the pavilion open?
The lap pool at the pavilion is open, and as of last Friday, we could open up all 8 lap lanes. We are doing a couple of fitness classes out of that pool. The capacity is 6. When we first opened, we were only allowed to open 4 lap lanes, but it has to be for fitness only. It cannot be for recreational use based on the governor's guidelines at this point.
Okay, so it has to be fitness
Yes,
associated.
fitness only.
That's why you can't open the
Yes.
Suffaletta pool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there is
Anything
no
else?
open play, so kids can't come in and play basketball at this moment. We're still at, groups of 10 or less, so that goes up on, I believe it's June 29th, we go up to 50 or less. So that will help a little bit, but we also are not able to offer childcare for those that are utilizing fitness just because of the space we have. We could only have 2 kids in childcare because of the 6-foot distancing requirements. And you can't get kids to wear masks.
What other questions might does this sound like a fair plan to assess where we're at in early December, maybe late November, and then bring this, and make an observation and look at revenues and then bring it back? I truly believe Kim's done everything she can to streamline things and try to, just manage navigate the ship in the storm, and it's been very difficult. So I appreciate your efforts there.
This has been fun for my first go-round on a budget.
And you can make it, but I truly appreciate your efforts on behalf of the community to navigate this and still provide opportunities for folks. And then, June 15th, we're going to open up a little bit, and at Great Crossing Park, they're going to be practicing youth baseball at Great Crossing Park on Monday night, and that'll be fun.
Softball has chose to
wait till August.
To wait till the 1st of August. The board felt like the guidelines that the governor put in place changes the game, and so they wanted to wait until some of those guidelines were lifted before they started.
So, I personally am excited to see kids on those fields, and they look really good.
They look really good. They haven't been
We're
played
gonna get
on.
some use out of it. So I don't think we need a motion. I think I wanted to publicly acknowledge what we were trying to navigate. And if somebody wants to make a motion otherwise, you're welcome to, but
So this is for the record,
yes,
please.
yes. Everybody comfortable going forward? Kim, you
Does anybody
comfortable?
have any staffing questions? I know that the judge touched on it, but we normally have 18 full-time staff. Right now, we have 14 full-time staff. For the new fiscal year, it's not new positions, they're old positions, but 4 of them are empty. We really do need to fill our grade 5 that's over in outdoor maintenance. We only have 5 guys that take care of 528 acres, and that's not just mowing. That's trying to clean up storm damage, that's weed eating, since we haven't gotten the jail guys. And they just really can't keep up, and 5 isn't enough anyway on a normal day. For the 3 positions that we have chose to hold until December, it's my old position, the marketing and special events, our assistant director, and also our assistant aquatics manager because of the limbo that Suffaletta is in at this moment. So those are all full-time positions.
So, with that said, if there's nothing else, we'll move to.
Do you have anybody, one question, do you have anybody retiring?
Yes, we do. Mr. Parker is going to be retiring on July 31st. He is our facility and operations manager.
Is that a position you'll try to?
Yes, absolutely. However, in the new budget, I allocated for less than what Mr. Parker was making at his time of retirement. And the reason why a lot of these positions are open is because we did have some retirements. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else? The other item that Kim can speak to is Parks and Recreation Board appointment, and I anticipated through conversations with Kim that I would be getting a resignation from Dr. John Travis. He just, because of the COVID-19 and his ministry, the time constraints of his requirements with his church changed, and he just could not keep the commitment to the Parks and Rec Board the way he felt like he needed to, and I certainly understand, and I appreciate him being willing to serve, but and greatly appreciate that. But he had to resign, and I officially got his resignation yesterday. But Kim had spoken about this a little bit and shared a potential candidate. I shared that information about that potential candidate. We can entertain that candidate today, or if you all want to defer and give it more time since the resignation officially came yesterday. Comfortable with whatever you all would like to do, but the candidate that Kim presented was Camille Overstreet. She's an educator, long time involved in a lot of youth activities, and comes recommended with a lot of efforts and good references.
She was highly involved with the Ed Davis community and in the programs that were started when the facility originally opened. So.
If there are no other nominations, I move we accept the recommendation of Parks and Rec.
And she wants to do it, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
We have a motion. Is there
I'll
a
do a
second?
second.
A second from Mr. Ellison.
Her bio came immediately.
Any other comments? Any other comments? With that said, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Move this one fast and deep.
She may not know what she's getting into. I did not.
Yeah. No takebacks. Thanks,
Thank you very
Kim.
much for your time.
Yes. Now, number 17, as we come to the end of this agenda, upcoming meetings that we need to consider making some adjustments on. 6/25 is a Thursday night, regularly scheduled meeting. I don't see anything changing between now and then. I would ask the court to consider a change to 9 a.m. On July the 3rd, we are closed. We are scheduled for a workshop. I believe we can cancel that workshop. If something comes up of critical need, we can certainly schedule a special called meeting. And then I don't want to go any farther than July, but once again on July 23rd, I'd like to ask the court to consider a 9 a.m. change instead of 7, because I really don't think anything will change between the end of July. Now, after July, hopefully we can maybe get back to regular rotation. But what's that sound like to you all, and what comments and concerns or questions would anyone have?
I'm just going to make my comment is that I like it when the public's here, and I think that the evening meetings make it personally available for us as well as for the public to come. That would be saying that you're saying that you were asking that we move it to 9 based on the executive order put out by the governor. Is that correct?
I don't think, and if something changes, we can certainly come back and change it. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But if nobody can be here other than those that are addressing the court, the public can, that was my thought, that I don't think anything will change before July. I certainly agree with you on normal circumstances about the 7 p.m. Time slot. I'm just trying to
just look ahead, and your prediction is that nothing's going to happen as far as with the executive
and if
order.
something does change, then let's come back and reconsider.
Doesn't that happen in July when you go from 10 to 50?
But I just think that they'll still restrict
meetings.
6 feet.
And
because of square footage.
Our square footage. Is that, Mike, is that what you would say?
That's correct. They're going to upgrade to up to 50 people, but the square footage of the room is going to limit,
Well, I mean,
some
we
have to be space like this, so having general public.
But you still could have general public, because, I mean, we don't usually have a lot of people come anyway, you know, general public, right? I mean, so, well, yeah, I mean, it depends on the topic.
But if we
Space
we
it out.
opened it right now, we could barely
True.
fit 2 or 3. If the court doesn't want to do it, that's the court's decision. I just wanted it.
I'm okay until we
I
can.
I didn't want to do anything past July. Was there anybody else's thoughts?
I move to go ahead and move the June 25th meeting to 9 a.m., cancel the July 3rd workshop, and let's wait on the July meeting, twice before we can see.
I'm good with that. So that's a motion, and there's a second. Rick seconded that. Any other questions? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes to do that. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I'll make that.
I was waiting on Bill, you're slow on that one.
Is there a second? Second from Mr. Corman. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all very much.
You know, timing is everything.